ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत्। नष्टप्रायेषु भद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवती उत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी। कृष्णाय वासुदेवाय देवकी नंदनाय च नंदगोपकुमाराय गोविंदाय नमो नमः। ओम अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनच्छलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपः कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम्। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरोः श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगणा रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनासहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधाकृष्णपादान् सहगणललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च। हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधु जगत्पते गोपेशा गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमोस्तुते। तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। पंचकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्येव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौरभक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांत स्वामी नाम सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष नवादि पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे त्वं करोति वाचालं पंगुं लंघयते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे श्रीगुरुं दीप्तारणं परमानन्दमाधवं। हरे कृष्ण। So welcome to all the devotees. Today is also the auspicious beginning of the new year. Now there are so many new years. There is Chinese New Year, there is Gregorian calendar New Year, and there are so many calendars of so many individuals celebrate their own New Year. So you may say, Prabhuji, what's so special about this New Year? So I just take 2 minutes and so we understand. So the first point is, this is not just any New Year. This is not a New Year based on an imaginary calendar. This is the Vedic New Year Tithi. It is the Chaitra Shukla Pratipada. It is the first day of the year, and the Tithi coincides with the day on which creation was actually done. Because time in the Vedic scriptures is cyclical in nature. And the question one will have is, what was the reference point from where you started your year? So most people do not really have a reference point. It is when they started the calendar, the reference point starts from there. But our reference point is based on the Vedas, and it is cyclical in nature. And it goes on and on and on. So some talk about it as the beginning of the Satya Yuga, some talk about it as the beginning of, at the end of the day, because the year is the unit in which multiples of which everything else is measured as far as Earth is concerned, in terms of Earth time. The Tithi of the New Year, the Shastra says, coincides in terms of its time cycles with the beginning of the age and the beginning of the overall creation as well. In fact, this day, of course, it has different names. In Maharashtra, it is known as Gudi Padwa. There's a particular reason. I'll not go into the details of that. It's a specific way in which it is celebrated, establishing what is known as the Brahma Dhwaja, the transcendental flag. Brahma Dhwaja, which is known as Gudi in Marathi. I don't want to go into the details, but there is a specific significance of the various things which are used to form that flag. It is not just a cloth flag. Cloth is there, but there is a vessel. There are certain other things which are there. And that is known as the Brahma Dhwaja. There are certain rituals which are to be observed. And it is said that that transcendental Brahma Dhwaja attracts the auspicious energies of the universe which are emanated at that particular time and brings in good fortune. So there's a lot of thought. These are not just empty imaginary rituals. There is certain worship also to be done. There are certain verses which are to be chanted to glorify it. Of course, these practices nowadays have become almost absent. At least in our younger years, we used to do this at our own home, Maharashtra. This day is also celebrated amongst the Telugus and certain other parts of India. Telugus call it as Ugadi. I do not know about various other parts because somehow other considerations of New Year have taken over. Of course, the most exciting being 31st because people get to party and drink and eat and marry. So it's very sad. In Kali Yuga, New Year isn't so much about a reflection of where I'm going in my life. It's about, I'm so tired of all the frustration. Let me just dip myself in the mode of ignorance and then come back again and continue my enjoyment tendency in the new year. Right? And I hope I get more sense enjoyment. But that is the mood in which New Year is approached typically in modern times. So for us as spiritual practitioners, New Year is an opportunity. We have one cycle, and a year is a significant amount of time. It's a good opportunity for all of us to reflect on where we were 1 year ago, especially in our spiritual journey. Of course, we can meditate in various ways on our physical situation, our emotional situation, our intellectual situation, our financial situation, for students, our educational situation, professional situation. Of course, we can take a stock in all ways, but since we are talking from a Bhagavatam perspective here in this class, especially from a spiritual perspective, we should take stock of where we are. And at least, honestly, if we ask ourselves, at least we should be better off spiritually than where we were 1 year ago on this day. Of course, roughly, we're not tracking day by day, but roughly after a year, am I having more faith in Krishna? Have I acquired more knowledge than what it was 1 year ago? Have I developed at least a little more attraction for Krishna? I'm talking about incremental. I'm not saying that we have to become advanced in 1 year. That obviously is a far cry. If that happens, that's wonderful. But at least have we made that progress? So since we are all here, I just want to ask all of you, just reflect for 10 seconds on whether you feel there may be obstacles. I'm not saying you have overcome all obstacles, but are you better off in terms of your conviction, in terms of your knowledge, as compared to where you were 1 year ago? So I would like to hear from all of you. You don't necessarily have to speak out unless you want to speak out. That's fine. But if you think that you are in a better situation than what you were 1 year ago, maybe you can either give a thumbs up or raise your hand. Yes, Bhaskar has raised his hand. Very good, Bhaskar Prabhu. Archana, Leelaji, Suraj, the Ravindra family. Very good. Sini ji, thank you. Santana, Veena, Shraddha ji, good. Gita ji, Holmes iPad. I do not know who's the Holmes iPad. But, yes. Sneha ji. Good. Namnishta Mataji, Hare Krishna. Thank you so much for all your feedback. So, actually, I'm very confident all of you are in a better situation. Yeah. So, I'm just asking so that you can reconfirm to yourself. I have no doubt the very fact that you are regularly attending Gita and Bhagavatam classes itself means you are on the right track and you are making incremental progress. It is impossible. The only way, let me tell you very clearly, the only way it can be true that you are attending all the classes and you have still not made any spiritual progress. The main reason 99% of the time, if at all that is true, in a very small percentage of time, is only if we are committing serious offenses against Guru, Krishna, and the Vaishnavas. Because what happens then is that even though we are doing spiritual practices, our offenses are actually gradually eroding our faith and attachment to Krishna. Other than that, even if we are struggling in various situations in life, rest assured, if you are not offensive, if we are sincere, adopting the means, even though we may be struggling in various ways, rest assured, you're making positive, tangible progress. In fact, the Bhagavatam says that with every rising and setting of the sun is taking away the life of everyone else, of everyone other than those who are regularly chanting the holy names of the Lord. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. This doesn't mean that those who are chanting Hare Krishna are not going to die. Everybody is going to die. But the difference is, those who are simply dying and taking another body, they are aimlessly wandering and continuing their wandering in the material universe. Punarapi jananam, punarapi maranam, punarapi janani jathare shayanam. Just going to be tossed around in the waves of the material ocean, continuously, unendingly, hopelessly. But those who are taking shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord, for them, with every rising and setting of the sun, they are coming closer and closer and closer to the supreme destination. So today, you are one day closer to entering Goloka Vrindavan. That is the fact. Now, out of how many days you have reduced number one, that I do not know. That actually is in your hand. Hopefully, if we are very sincere, actually, you don't even have to say hopefully. If we are actually very sincere, committed, this can be our last life in this matter. And we can say this with confidence, not because we are anything great, but because we have the very special blessing to be born within the extended pastimes of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who has come to deliver the most fallen of the fallen living entities. And like what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, if you simply chant Hare Krishna Maha Mantra and do not offend the devotees, very easily we can go back home, back to birth. So for us, it is a day of reflection to see that we are making good, substantial, tangible progress. And the simple barometer of spiritual progress, as I have repeatedly said, is one, are we developing more attachment to Krishna? And how do we measure attachment to Krishna? Attachment to Krishna for us at our level is measured by our attraction for various aspects of spiritual sadhana. Chanting the holy names, hearing, reading Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, discussing Hari Katha, worshipping the Lord, serving the devotees. Are we developing? Because we get attraction to Krishna because we can approach Krishna through these limbs of devotional service. Sometimes we may not directly feel at a neophyte level a direct appreciation or attraction for the transcendental form of the Lord. Even if you don't feel at this level, It's okay. It will gradually come. But at least are we feeling more attraction to hearing and discussing the Bhagavad? More attraction to chanting the holy names? A little bit more than what it was a year ago. And sometimes that attraction may not even be a lot of attraction. It may be just less distraction. That's also progress. So at least in that way, we are making tangible progress, and we should always remember Krishna says, Neha Bikramanashosti Pratyavayo Nividyate Svalpam Apyasya Dharmasya Trayate Mahatobhaya, that in this path of spiritual advancement, especially in bhakti, there is no loss or diminution. Even a little progress can save one from the greatest danger. Prabhupada repeatedly says that even if we stop at 1%, we'll continue from 2% in our next life, and then 3%. It has never lost. Never. Even sinful activities cannot destroy bhakti. They may be able to temporarily distract us or cover us up for some time if you're not careful. Bhakti cannot be destroyed by any material means. But yes, bhakti can be ruined by offenses. That's why I keep mentioning this again and again and again. Because aparadha is not a material offense. I'm talking about Vaishnava aparadha. Because it's a spiritual offense, it has the capability to destroy the faith and attraction to Krishna. So if we are careful of that, and we are carefully guarding, making our due effort to slowly come higher and higher in our practice of bhakti, slowly add rules and regulations which maybe we may not be able to follow at this stage. Slowly work towards following. For example, out of the 4 regulative principles, maybe we are following 2 but not following another 2. Gradually improve our standard to follow more and more the regulative principles of devotional service, and gradually move to a higher and higher and higher standard. That is progress. So I would like to wish all of you, first of all, I want to congratulate all of you and thank you very much. Most of you here in this class have been with me for longer than a year. In fact, some of you have been for many years, some of you for almost a decade. And in many of your lives, I can confidently say, you all have made tangible progress. I can see it in all of your lives, and I'm so very happy. And I'm so proud of all of you. And I seek all of your blessings also, that I can also be steady and firm in my own spiritual practice. And together, we can take shelter of this blissful process of Krishna consciousness. That's what Krishna says in the 9th chapter. Rajavidya Rajaguyam Pavitram Udamutmam Pratyakshavagamam Dharmyam Susukham Kartum. Bhakti, when done properly, is a cause of great joy. So nice. It's pleasing to the body, it's pleasing to the mind, and of course, pleasing to the soul. If you're not experiencing this, that means somewhere in the bhakti, we are mixing it too much with the modes. So, please continue on. I would like to thank you, congratulate you, and encourage you to continue the journey. And today we are also in the stage of discussion, even in the Bhagavatam, a similar theme. We are hoping to conclude, I believe we will be able to conclude the discussion of the 12th chapter of the 4th canto, which is the chapter entitled Dhruva Goes Back to Godhead. So this is the culmination of the pastime of Dhruva Maharaj. My intention is to try to complete the chapter, let's say, Krishna willing. So Dhruva Maharaj also has had such a wonderful, amazing lifetime. And like what we discussed earlier classes, even though he attained such an exalted position, because he had approached the Lord with a material desire, the Lord blessed him with the fulfillment of his material desire also. And this is a very consistently interesting theme. Those who have approached the Lord with uh, with a material desire, if they stick to the process of worshipping the Lord with great intensity always, eventually Krishna gives them both. Krishna gives them spiritual blessing and also material blessing. But invariably, those devotees come to the realization of why did I actually want the material blessing? Because actually by asking for it, I have actually trapped myself. That's why those who are really very advanced in Krishna consciousness, they just, as far as their material considerations are concerned, they just say, Lord, whatever you think is fit and necessary, you just do for me. Because as we see, Dhruva ended up waiting for 36,000 years. Even though he could have gone back to God at that point itself because of his desire. That's why he said, oh, I achieved so much and just see what I did. And you could see, even while he was on earth, he took over the kingdom from his father. Tama passed away in that unexpected calamity, and there was this big conflict with the Yakshas. And we've been discussing that over the last couple of classes, and so much of chaos. Even though he had achieved to the level of prema, see in the material world, how the nature of the material world is, it will still drag you into conflict. It will still throw obstacles at you. It will still, material energy never allows anybody to be peacefully, comfortably be situated. That doesn't exist. So one will always continue to be tossed. Of course, those who are advanced devotees, by continuously taking shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord, they keep their consciousness in such a way that their consciousness is not affected by the modes of material nature. The modes of nature are so powerful. Sometimes, if one is not careful, one may get temporarily overwhelmed, even great souls. And we discussed this episode of how Dhruva got Ati Rosha. Anger became too much anger. That's the problem with the material modes. So Prabhupada would say, don't flirt with Maya. Like we say, right? Flirting. The material sense, you try to just, I don't really want to have a serious relationship with this boy or this girl, but I am just flirting. Younger will sometimes do that. Then one may think I am flirting, but one may get sucked into a particular situation. So that is the nature of the material energy. Those who think I'll just enjoy Maya a little bit, or I will just exert myself a little bit. That is why especially sannyasis are strongly recommended to be very careful, not just not engage in material activities. The scriptures say one should not even be close to those who are deeply materially attached. This is something very interesting. Because even being close to those who are deeply materially attached can be very infecting to the spiritual practitioner. So that is the general recommendation. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was very strict in this regard. Just very want to quickly mention, to the extent that he was so strict that he was not even willing to meet even once the king of Puri, was actually a very great devotee. He said, I am a sannyasi. And a king is a Vishayi. By virtue of his being in the position of a king, he is surrounded by opulences, associating with so many queens and doing so much politics and this and that. Just refused. I will not do. So what to speak of engaging in all these things, even associating with those who are deeply into this is considered contaminating for the sadhana. So the scriptures say not only should one not associate intimately with the opposite sex, but one should not associate with the Yoshita Sanginam. Bhagavatam says. Yoshita Sanginam means those who are, it should not be attached to those who are attached to enjoying materialistically in a deep way, especially lust. And that is why those who are in a material situation, positions like kings, positions of great power, and those who are maintaining extraordinarily purity of consciousness, in spite of ruling, being surrounded by opulence, power, that is very extraordinary attainment. Very extraordinary. In one sense, you can say if they are successfully doing it and maintaining a perfect consciousness, it is higher than those who are simply taking sannyas and achieving perfection. Of course, they are also great. But those who are able to remain untouched even when doing this, that is very extraordinary. And when Krishna was telling Arjuna, that's what he wanted Arjuna to become. And he gave the examples of kings like Janaka. He said, in the past, kings like Janaka, Raja Rishis, Brahma Rishis. There are some Brahma Rishis and there are Raja Rishis. So Janak was a Raja Rishi. He was a sage, even though he was a king. And he was always situated in transcendental consciousness. He was doing everything with perfect detachment from material desires and perfect dedication to the Supreme Personality of God. That is extraordinarily difficult. And Dhruva also led his life practically like that. But there are some instances which we discussed how in that particular case Ati Rosha happened. And why that kind of instance is mentioned is not to blemish Dhruva's character, but to show the power of material energy. So we want to continue to discuss the pastime further. I just wanted to recollect all these wonderful stories, because if we don't absorb the morals, you're not just here wanting to entertain ourselves. We want to internalize the lessons which are coming from this beautiful pastime, because all these have been narrated for a purpose. Everything in the Bhagavatam that has been narrated, specific pastimes have been selected which are aimed at teaching us about pure devotional service, either in a positive way or in a negative way. Positive way means perfect positive examples, and also negative way by giving us, telling us episodes in history of great souls, of the challenges they went through and how sometimes they struggled, how sometimes they beautifully overcame it. Of course, in all situations, those who took shelter of the Lord eventually circumvented and overcame all difficulties and achieved the supreme destination. But through their ups and downs also, we can learn so that we are careful in our own spiritual journeys. So we have reached that particular point in Dhruva's pastime where Dhruva, after annihilating wholesale so many yakshas, Swayambhuva Manu had to come and intervene and instruct him, Dhruva, what is this you are doing? You're getting carried away by too much anger and you're punishing innocent people. And we discussed that in great detail, and he gave a lot of instructions. I'm not going to summarize those, that will take again a lot of time, but most of the last chapter was about Swayambhuva Manu's instructions. And Dhruva realized, and Dhruva took a humble position. Dhruva did not say, oh, I'm such a great person. No need to instruct me. I know what is to be done. Even great souls, they're always open to be corrected. Of course, in this case, Swayambhu Manu was not just another person. He's his grandfather. So obviously he was especially respectful, but he was like almost chastised, if you see. He was giving even philosophical instruction. It was not just a subtle hint that Swayambhu Manu gave him. He didn't ask him, you're doing the right thing, Dhruva. Actually, you read the words, it's almost like chastisement for him. He didn't take it as an offense. He welcomed that correction. He said, yes, I have crossed the line in my reaction. This is another thing which is very important. Sometimes we think we are doing the right thing. by reacting to a particular situation in a particular way. But we have to be careful even in reacting, that we react always proportionately. We cannot go beyond a particular proportion. Now, classic example are road rage incidents. You understand what is road rage? Somebody comes and just bumps into your car accidentally. The person who is hit, he feels so offended and so angry. Sometimes he just comes out with a gun and shoots the other person. Because they're just so mad with anger, they don't know. So this is a disproportionate response. He just banged your car, you killed him. No, he did it first. Arey Baba, it doesn't matter, he did it first. You cannot give a disproportionate response. You cannot hang somebody for picking a pocket. So the response also has to be proportional. So that's a very big topic. I don't want to go into that. But this was the issue in this case. Dhruva wasn't totally wrong in trying to take on them. But then, of course, philosophically, Swayambhuva Manu explains to him that you have to see at a deeper level that ultimately all these activities are happening by higher arrangement. Don't overreact. That was the moral. Take shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. You are already such a great devotee. Set the right example, because how you behave sets the example for all others to follow. So if Dhruva can be corrected in public and his chastisement is listed in the Bhagavatam, we are so ordinary. Why we should sometimes be offended if some seniors are correcting us and telling us you are wrong? Sometimes we become so sensitive. Oh, Prabhu, you don't understand me. I am right. No. You are wrong. You don't understand me. So we must be very open to correction, especially from those who are our well-wishers. So there was one thing which Swayambhuva Manu had mentioned to Dhruva, that please be careful. Why killing so many yakshas? Yakshas who are followers of Kuvera. Kuvera is upset with you, and I don't want the wrath of Kuvera on our family. The wrath of a great soul on our family will not be good for us. And we discussed that also. How the wrath of great souls actually destroys the Bhagavatam and so many scriptures again and again say. It destroys our good fortune. This is very, very true. Please be very, very careful. Of course, if the great soul directly curses us, that is definitely worse. But sometimes just the wrath of advanced transcendentalists can actually wreak havoc in our spiritual lives. And especially for us, we are such small, struggling devotees that we don't need all these things. Should be very careful. So it so happened, as all these instructions were given and Dhruva agreed to Swayambhuva's, yes, I must pacify Kuvera. I have made a mistake and I must repair the situation. He agreed to make amends. As soon as this happened and Swayambhuva Manu went back, immediately Kuvera appeared on the scene. Very interesting. Why Kuvera appeared on the scene? Because Kuvera knew that Dhruva's anger has subsided. Kuvera is a great devata. He is the treasurer of the devatas. So he is an advanced soul. Of course, in a devotional sense, Dhruva is a greater devotee than Kuvera. But in the universal hierarchy, Kuvera has a higher position than Dhruva. Dhruva is the king of the earth, at least at this point. Kuvera is a devata. You understand, right? From a hierarchy. So Kuvera appeared and Kuvera was actually very pleased. Kuvera actually speaks to Dhruva and he says, "O Dhruva, O sinless one, Anagha, I'm actually very pleased with the way you have behaved. I'm very pleased with the fact that you have given up this feeling of enmity on the advice of your grandfather. Because this kind of an enmity feeling is very difficult to overcome and give up. So this is proof of your spiritual advancement. It is true, like what Swayambhuva Manu said. Ultimately, time is the cause that all these things are happening. Uttama got killed, and all these things happened. Some yaksha. So, time brings living entities together in situations, and things happen, and there are so many other factors which are leading to it. So, please understand that it is time, and you yourself are very advanced in spiritual consciousness. You should also know that one should not be trapped in the bodily identification of I, me, and mine, aham and tvam. This is all like a dream. And all such misidentification becomes the cause of repeated birth and death. So Dhruva, like what your grandfather said, yes, please continue to worship the Lord. I'm very pleased with you. So please continue with your wonderful devotional service. I'm excusing you. He doesn't use the word that I'm excusing you, but I'm just paraphrasing it. Effectively, he's saying that, I'm pleased. The matter is resolved. This happened. You reacted. Now the whole matter is resolved. You accepted the advice of Swayambhuva Manu. You restrained yourself. I'm okay. It's fine. I'm pleased also. And even the excess who are killed, I just consider it as a higher divine arrangement of material time that all these things have happened. So please, you also do not compromise your exalted position. Worship that Adhokshaja transcendental Lord in his transcendental form. By worshipping whose lotus feet, one can actually achieve the supreme destination. Bhavat Chiddam. Also, Dhruva, I am so pleased with you. I want to grant you a benediction. I want to give you a boon. Vara. Please, Vara Mango. Ask for a Vara. So, Kuvera is so pleased. Not only is he forgiving Dhruva, but he's so pleased that Dhruva didn't kill his followers beyond that, even though he could have. He says, okay, in exchange for your giving up this enmity and stopping the conflict. See, stopping conflict when you're in a position of strength, then there is some value. If you're weak, if you're getting defeated and you say, no, I want to stop conflict, there's nothing great on your side. Obviously, you're getting beaten up, you want to stop. But somebody who's winning, somebody who's in a position of power, then forgiveness, then stopping violence has more value, because that means you have controlled your ego and you sacrificed for a higher cause. So don't hesitate. Please ask for a benediction. And we have heard that you are always absorbed in meditating on the lotus feet of the Lord. So indirectly, he is hinting to Dhruva that those who are actually always absorbed in meditating on the lotus feet of the Lord, they are always getting all possible benedictions. So I am also wanting to grant you one. Please ask for it. When he was requested like this, Dhruva, because he was very intelligent, he's a great Mahabhagavat, and he's also extremely intelligent, Mahamati. You know what benediction he asked? Interesting benediction. He said, give me the blessing that I will have unflinching faith in the Lord and unflinching remembrance, achalitam smritim, of the Supreme Lord, by which I can very easily cross over the ocean of material existence. Amazing. This is very interesting. And we have also discussed this multiple times, that great souls, when they're asked for blessings, rarely you will find they will say, I want to go to Vaikuntha. I want to go to Goloka. Rather than asking for the destination, they ask for the certain means by which they can achieve the supreme destination. Because if you ask unflinching devotion and remembrance of the Lord, automatically everything is achieved. Smartavya satatam Vishnum Vismartavya najatachit sarve vidhi nishedasyu retayoreva kinkara. Unflinching remembrance of the Lord, always remembering Vishnu, never forgetting him, is the summum bonum of all spiritual instructions. And that is the perfect means and the guaranteed means of achieving perfection, both in this life and eventually. What does that mean? That if you are continuously absorbed in the remembrance of the Lord, even now, not only will you achieve the supreme destination at the end of this life, but even while you are living your life here in this world, you will remain in a transcendental state of consciousness. You will be unaffected by the modes of material nature. So this is verse 8 that we are discussing, where he's asking for the blessing from Kuvera. Actually, in one sense, Kuvera is not as great a devotee. In fact, Dhruva's remembrance of Krishna is greater than Kuvera's remembrance of Krishna. But in this case, Dhruva is taking a lower position. He wants to propitiate Kuvera, and Kuvera is taking the higher position as a Devata. Correct? Sometimes you're in an organization, you have a manager above you. He may not be as qualified as the staff under him, but because he's in that position has to be honored and a certain protocol has to be followed. So Dhruva just, according to protocol, accepts that blessing. Even though in one sense, he doesn't need that blessing from Kuvera, but he accepts. So good wishes and blessings we can accept from everybody. There's no harm. So that those are always welcome. Good wishes are always welcome. And good wishes from anybody help us. Whether they are more advanced than us, if they are more advanced, of course, they are more effective. If they are our equals, or even if they are from our juniors, good wishes are always helpful. So this beautiful transaction happened so that all this offensive considerations of Kuvera feeling offended and Dhruva committing that offense, all those got eliminated. And Kuvera granted that benediction. And after that happened, Dhruva returned back to his. So very nicely, the whole matter was, very beautifully sorted out. And the reason that Dhruva asked that particular benediction, the Acharyas say that Dhruva was worried, something very interesting, it's a very deep spiritual point, that Dhruva was worried that perhaps my offending Kuvera, because Kuvera is a great devotee of the Lord, perhaps my displeasing Kuvera may affect my remembrance of the Lord. This is exactly what we discussed at the beginning of the class, if you recollect. That if we offend great souls, it affects our attachment to the Lord. It affects our faith in the Lord. And ultimately what that means, it affects our remembrance of the Lord. So Dhruva, in spite of being such a great soul, was worried that even though Kuvera is not so advanced, still he is such a great devotee. Because all the devatas are great devotees. May not be all full pure devotees, but they are great devotees. So even offending and displeasing them may have an adverse reaction. And that's what he was concerned about, that it should not affect my Krishna consciousness. And that is why I very specifically asked for this blessing. So if it comes from Kuvera's mouth, that you will always remember the Lord, then he is like protected. Oh, the very person who offended has blessed me that I will never forget Krishna. Perfect. That was the subtle strategy of Dhruva asking that very specific blessing. And that is why great souls, when they bless, and I've seen this many devotees, many senior Vaishnavas, even in Krishna consciousness, even gurus, when devotees come for blessings, the blessing that they give oftentimes is Krishna Matirastu. Have you heard this blessing ever? How many of you have heard this blessing or been the recipient of this blessing from anybody? Krishna Matirastu. So what is the meaning of this blessing? Krishna Matir Astu. May your mind be fixed on Krishna. Which is exactly the blessing that Dhruva Maharaj is asking in different words. That may your consciousness be fixed on Krishna. Which means may you always remain in Krishna consciousness. Because once that is there, that means is fixed, all other things will automatically very easily be achieved. Because it is possible that even after chanting 16 rounds, following so many principles, one's mind may still be all over the place. One is not doing things properly in a proper consciousness. But if one's mind is properly fixed on Krishna, automatically all other things will follow very smoothly. So that is why this is the bottom line. So after this episode, Dhruva goes back home and he continues to rule the kingdom very wonderfully. He performs great sacrifice. He lives the life of a great Raja Rishi. He rules his kingdom very, very wonderfully. And he performed a lot of sacrifices because as a king, he had to set the right example for a proper dharmic rule. So the verses describe how, 10 to 16 verses describe how Dhruva ruled the kingdom very wonderfully. He was endowed with all good qualities. He was not only engaged in perfect bhakti. And what is the symptom of that perfect bhakti? Seeing everything within the Lord and the Lord within everything. This point also we have been discussing again and again and again, that this is the essence of transcendental vision. This is the essence of Krishna conscious vision. Seeing Krishna in everything and everything in Krishna. This is based on what Krishna himself says. That such a person is never lost to me, nor am I ever away from him. Dhruva displayed extraordinary spiritual qualities. He was the protector of religious principles. That was his duty as the king. He was always very respectful to the Brahmins, who are the promoters of Vedic culture, and he was kind to those who were poor and distressed. And who is an ideal king? An ideal king is he who is considered like a father by all the subjects. In fact, that is the role of the king. The king is supposed to be like the father because the king is the representative of the Supreme Lord on the earth. So it's also known as Bhudeva, the god on earth. So in this way, Dhruva ruled Bhumandal for 36,000 years. And it is said, as he was ruling, whatever his punya karmas, he was exhausting them by enjoying, and his sins he was overcoming through the performance of austerities. Now, of course, Dhruva was in one sense already beyond pap and punya, but he was showing the example of living in such a way, in a detached manner. So the point is, if one is living in a detached way, then the past reactions as they come, one just endures them. Tatte nukampam susumikshmana bhunjana mematpakatam vipakam duvag vapubhir vedadam namaste jive tayo mukti pade sadayaba. Just continued to perform his bhakti without being disturbed either by good results or being disturbed by various inconvenient circumstances. Generally, when we see inconvenient circumstances, we say, this is the result of my papa. So a devotee is neither too excited when things go the way he wants it, nor distressed. He just equal in happiness and stress. After living like this for 36,000 years, by properly executing like a king, dharma, artha and kama, realize now my 36,000 years that I was allotted by the Lord is coming to an end. He was waiting for it because he already realized practically immediately after that blessing by the Lord that, but nonetheless, he did the best of the bad bargain. And realizing that the world, none of this is actually going to be pleasing my soul. He said, this is like a Gandharva city. I mean, like an imaginary phantasmagoria, because it is Maya Rachitam. And spiritually contemplating the futility of material enjoyment and the disconnection of all such enjoyment and suffering from the real nature of the self, he decided that now I want to pack up. So he gave the kingdom to his son and he retired to Badrinath, Badrikashram. Very happily. Nowadays, you rarely see any politician retiring. No matter how old they grow, they don't want to retire. They hold on. In the ancient times, the great rulers were waiting when I will go. As soon as my son is qualified, I want to install him and go. So many examples in the Bhagavatam. So Dhruv also did like that. He retired to Badrikashram and there he behaved as if he was any conditioned soul who would come and adopt a retired renunciation life. He performed severe austerities to purify himself. He went through the various. He was already trained in yoga, so he went through the yama, niyama, asana, pranayam, pratyahar, dharana, dhyan. And by controlling his mind and senses to severe austerities, now he was exclusively devoted again to meditating on the Supreme Personality of God. He was fully absorbed in remembering the Lord. It is said his absorption became again so intense. The tears started flowing from his eyes. Ananda, Ashpakalaya. His body was drenched with tears of ecstasy. His heart was melting out of love. Viklidyamana hridaya. Hair standing on end. Ulaka Chittango. And he became so absorbed in such a transcendental consciousness that he totally forgot about his material bodily condition. So much he went deep into transcendental consciousness. Not only he became detached from the gross body, he became detached from the subtle body, Mukta Linga. Because when the soul wants to be free from material existence, one has to not just be free from gross body. Gross body, one becomes free by death also. But to be free from material existence, the Linga Sharira, the subtle covering of the soul needs to be removed and destroyed. And that is destroyed fully only through the process of intense devotional service. As this was happening and as the time was coming suddenly, when this intense absorption was there and Dhruv was disintegrating all his material, even the subtle body which was holding him there, a Vimana from Vaikuntha came and descended to that place. Not just a small airplane. Huge, beautiful airplane. Even though the size is not mentioned here, it seems that it was very huge, almost like, a huge house or a bungalow or something like that. Huge flying plane. It was illuminating all directions as if the moon had descended on earth. And on that plane, on the Vaikuntha Viman, there were two associates of the Lord, Nanda and Sunanda, very dear associates of Lord Narayan, who were there on that plane, who had come to escort Dhruva to Vishnu Loka. Which Vishnu Loka? Shweta Dvipa Vishnu Loka. So Dhruva Maharaj, and the beauty of these associates is described. It said they had dark complexions, their dress, their helmet. Essentially, the description of these residents is almost matching like the Lord. In fact, the residents of Vishnu Loka have forms which are almost similar to Lord Vishnu. They also have forearms. They also have backish complexion. They look very similar. That is what is known as the Sarupya Mukti. The only thing is there are few aspects which the Lord has exclusive. He has the Kaustuba Mani. He has the Srivatsa mark on his chest. He has Tulsi at his lotus feet, which is not there on the other Parshas. So there are obviously certain distinguishing marks. But otherwise, if you have a quick look, one may not even know, is this Vishnu or is this an associate of Vishnu? Has to do some close examination to figure out. And there are instances in the Bhagavad where they suddenly know this is Vishnu. And they said, no, I am not Vishnu. I am just servant of Vishnu. So Dhruva became so excited when he suddenly saw these personalities coming. It is said he was so bewildered on seeing them that he suddenly stood up. But he was so overwhelmed, he didn't even know how to properly honor them. So he just offered pranams to them rather than following the rituals of welcoming a great personality. And just honored them by saying Hare Krishna. He said he honored them by folding his hands and chanting the names of the Lord. So like when we see a devotee say Hare Krishna Prabhu, so it looks like he did something like that. So Dhruva stood with folded hands in front of the Lord, being absorbed. Krishna Padabhi Nivishta Chetasam, absorbed completely in meditating on the lotus feet of the Lord. So Nanda and Sunanda, seeing Dhruva humbly standing before them, addressed him very affectionately. Let there be all good fortune on you. And they started glorifying Dhruva. When you were 5 years old, you pleased the Lord of Vaikuntha with your austerities. You are so extraordinary. We are actually associates of that Supreme Lord you have pleased, and who is the Lord of the entire universe, Akhila Jagata Dhatur, and the one who holds the Saranga bow, the Sarangadhari Lord Hari. And we have come to take you to his abode. So 36,000 years are over. The Lord had blessed you that you will come. But the problem is there is no flight which goes to Vishnu Loka. So if anybody wants to go to Vishnu Loka has to send a plane to pick you up and bring you back. There's no airline which flies like that. And that happens when the Lord becomes so pleased that he will tell his associates, go and get him. Why is he there? I want him back in my abode. So that is the modus operandi. So the visa as well as the flight ticket comes from there only. So you can apply, but everything has to be granted. So when the Lord or his pure devotees become pleased, all necessary arrangements are automatically done. The devotee doesn't have to worry. And this is true for all great souls who manage to please the Lord or his pure devotees. So please come with us and now reside in Vishnu Loka. Vishnu Loka is your rightful place now. That place which is so difficult to achieve for almost all living entities, which is so high that so many luminaries and planetary systems are rotating around it just like a bull, which is yoked to a central point. And that abode which nobody attained, even your ancestors, nobody has attained. Even as of now, Brahma, your great-grandfather, has also not attained there. That abode we have come to take you to. And that abode is respected by all living entities. I'd like to take 10 minutes more. Is that okay? That I can wrap up the chapter? Yeah. I mean, actually, we are halfway through the chapter, but the rest of the chapter, there isn't a lot of philosophical discussion, but I can try to cover it quickly. I hope that is okay. So you are worthy to board this airplane, this Vimana Pravaram, which has been sent by the Lord Uttama Shloka. So please come. So it is said, Dhruva, hearing these very sweet words, he boards into that particular plane. Of course, before boarding into that plane, a very interesting description is done that Dhruva, so many great sages and other advanced souls in Badrikashram, Badrinath, and so many great sages are there. He offers obeisances to all of them, seeks their blessings. Can I go? Please give me your blessings. I am going to the Supreme Lord's abode. And they all blessed him. And it is said, as he was about to board into the plane, death personified approached Dhruva Maharaj. Mrityu approached Dhruva Maharaj. And what did Dhruva Maharaj do? Dhruva Maharaj put his foot on the head of Mrityu and putting that foot and using it as a step. He stepped on the head of death and jumped into the plane. What does that mean? That means he used death as his transition to go from the material realm into the spiritual. See, death for ordinary material people is just a change of gross body, and they just continue from one life to another. For a devotee, he uses death as a stepping stone to give up both the gross and the subtle body and enter the transcendental realm. That's what Dhruva did. And Dhruva sat on the plane in a very happy manner, and just as the plane was about to depart, suddenly Dhruva remembered and he told the residents, the Nanda and Sunanda, oh, we are about to go, but what about my mother? My mother has helped me so much, Suniti. How can I leave her behind? She is the cause of my good fortune. I cannot leave her behind. Very interesting. Even at that stage, he was remembering those who helped him. Even though Suniti was not so advanced in spiritual consciousness like Dhruva, but Dhruva felt so grateful for the affection and the guidance that Suniti gave him, which actually made it possible for him to achieve such a great position. And as soon as he said like that, Sunanda and Nanda smiled at him and showed him and pointed in a direction. When they pointed in that direction, what did Dhruva see? He saw another airplane, Vaikuntha Viman, in which his mother was already seated and she was already, her flight had already taken off. They said, see, your mother is already on the plane. She's already on her way back home, back to Godhead, just because of her connection with you. Because you have become a Mahabhagwat. Those who are dear to you and close to you and those who have assisted you have also got tremendous blessings, and especially your mother. So Dhruva was very happy. Yes, now everything is said. My mother is also going back to Godhead. So in that way it is said. So the scriptures say a father, mother, or a guru of a great devotee. Sometimes the father, mother, or guru may not be as great as the son or the disciple or the daughter. But it is said, even if a disciple or even if the child, the son or daughter becomes a pure devotee, they can deliver their parents or even their teacher. So that is why I continuously request all of you to deliver me, so that, because of my shortcomings, I am not very hopeful, but by all of your devotion, and you are going back in the Vaikuntha Viman, you can pray for me. Then I have some hope. Because for us, when we receive the blessings of devotees, then our path becomes so much easier. So Prabhupada also says that this is such an encouraging message, even for the mothers and fathers of those who are devotees, that how much they should encourage their own children to take up Krishna consciousness, because by the virtue of their children's Krishna consciousness, they will be delivered. So this is a very wonderful inspiration. It is said, as the Vimana was flying through the universe, Dhruva Maharaj saw all the various planetary systems, and the Devatas in these various planetary systems were showering flowers on Dhruva. And Dhruva, seeing all these planetary systems, but still not being attached to any of them, he reached the supreme abode, passing through Bhu, Bhuva, Swa. He went beyond the planets of the seven sages and attained Dhruvalok. So the glories of Dhruvalok are described. So who is qualified to enter the Dhruvalok? Essentially those who are totally pure, Shanta Shamadrisha Shuddha Sarva Bhutanuranjanaha Yanti Anjas Achyutta Padam Achyutta Priyabhandavaha. That those who are always peaceful, equipoised, pure, merciful, and they always keep friendly relationship with the devotees, such living entities can go there. And Dhruva attained that topmost abode. And Narad Muni sings the glories of Dhruva when he attained this destination. It is said he was glorifying Dhruva's position at the sacrifice of the Prachetas, because he's narrating this pastime. And he glorifies to the Prachetas, saying that just see what Dhruva attained. An unattainable position who never was attained earlier, Dhruva attained by his tapa prabhavaha, his extraordinary austerities and devotional practices. He conquered the unconquerable. Within 6 months, when he was 5 years old. So in that way, Narad Muni glorifies, and then this particular chapter is concluded by Maitreya Muni, because Maitreya is narrating this to Vidura, the overall pastime. So Maitreya very excitedly is telling Vidura that I have described everything that you needed to know in detail about this beautiful pastime of Dhruva. But I want to conclude by telling you that this pastime is so wonderful, so special. All great souls enjoy discussing this pastime of Dhruva. It's very purifying. And this katha is very dear to the devotees of the Lord. So one should go on discussing this pastime. This pastime is especially wonderful to discuss. But how it should be discussed? It should be discussed with great care and attention. It should be discussed in a society of devotees and Brahmins. It should be discussed without taking remuneration. So the speaker should not ask for money in return for telling Katha of Dhruva. It should be discussed by devotees who have taken shelter of the Lord and before an audience who is actually eager to hear. And it is especially good to discuss this in the morning and the evening during Purnima, Amavasya, Dwadashi, during the Shravan month and some other tithis, and also at the end of a month or on a Sunday. So the Bhagavatam mentions. And by such a recitation of this katha, both the speaker and the listeners will become perfect. What is the blessing one gets? One also gets not just spiritual blessings, but also all material blessings by listening about Dhruva's extraordinary success. It gives one wealth, fame, longevity, heavenly attainments. One can even attain Dhruva Loka. And of course, the greatest blessing of all, pure bhakti. Even if one wants to achieve extraordinary success in this world, if one wants to become great, if one wants to develop great influence, power, respect, and good qualities, also they can be attained through hearing this pastime in the association of devotees. So both material blessings and spiritual blessings are there. Of course, we are not especially doing with a material motivation, but even material blessings can come. So having explained this Falashruti, Maitreya Muni concludes the description of Dhruva Maharaj. Dhruva Maharaj, very extraordinary life. Thank you very much. Grantara Srimad Bhagavatam ki Jai. Dhruva Maharaj ki Jai. So we concluded chapter 12. So chapter 13 onwards is the discussion of the descendants of Dhruva. So we will take it there, and there are very interesting pastimes which are there, and a lot of very, very beautiful, interesting stories and pastimes. Okay, I'm opening up the floor. Sorry, just went 10 minutes over. Any questions, any comments, anybody wants to ask or share? Okay, so we hope all these beautiful blessings will shower on all of us, especially the ones with respect to pure devotion. And of course, we don't mind some wealth also, as long as it doesn't disturb our Krishna consciousness. So our spiritual life is not about it is about attachment to the Lord, and whatever other good blessings come, as long as they help us and don't disturb us, and as long as we can use them in Krishna's service. Devotees are neither attached to them nor do they hate material opulence. Devotees are always attached. So anyway, today is New Year also. So we have completed on this very auspicious day the discussion of this. It is said this day is considered very auspicious. This tithi is considered a day on which you don't need to see any muhurta. The whole day is considered very auspicious. Just like Akshay Tritiya. One doesn't need. What blessings to see? Yes, yeah, the blessings to see. Like what we discussed. Okay, just want to, before we end, want to just check with you. Are we on for tomorrow? Are you all okay for our Sadhaka Sangha?
Yes, Prabhuji. Okay, Prabhuji.
Yeah, okay. So we'll have our discussion tomorrow. So 9 p.m. We'll continue our discussion. So I'll see you all tomorrow. Thank you very much. Granthara Srimad Bhagavatam ki Jai. Srila Prabhupada ki
Jai.
Jai.
Thank you, Maharaj
Jai
ki jai.
Krishna. And Happy New Year again to all of you. Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Happy New Year and thank you for the lovely class, Prabhu.
Thank you, Sachividana Mataji.
Happy New Year. Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.